Hey guys, how's it going? It's Chris here, and today we're going to be looking at Book 2 Leftover Notes. Now, what I mean by leftover is that these are notes that typically I write down on my phone. I have like a notes app on my phone that I paid for, and I keep notes on there. And then when I accrue enough notes, and I think like, yeah, this is a good place because I don't want to accidentally delete notes, which I have done before. So it's like I have a lot of notes here, a lot of good stuff. I need to transfer this off my phone. So I'll take those and I will email them to myself. And then I'll collect that email and I'll just dump it in a document either in the book document itself or a separate document for notes. If I have a whole lot of notes that are pretty unorganized, I'll usually put them in a document like this. So sometimes I'll copy paste them to the document. Sometimes I'll cut them from this document and just move them directly to the book if they're like a decent chunk of a pretty organized material that I need to reference. And sometimes you'll have notes in here that are just single words, like oh, I'll have the word fascinate or like ruminate, and like I'll just like remember, oh yeah, that's a word. I need to remember to use better words. Like it's just like because a lot of times when you're writing, you just kind of write down very basic things, very basic structure, very basic words, and you're looking for synonyms. You're looking for more words that have more depth and meaning to what you're trying to say. And sometimes when you're writing, you don't think of them. And then I think of the word later, like, oh, yeah, ruminate. I need to remember to say ruminate because that's what I'm intending. And I'm not going to remember the spot. So I'll just write down ruminate in the notes so I can remember to do that. Happens all the time. I'm sure a lot of people do it. It's not just me. Or I'll be listening to a song. I'm like, that, or listening to a song or listening to a podcast and somebody will say a word. I'm like, that's a cool ass word. What does that mean? Ooh, yeah, that definitely, I need to incorporate that somehow. That's a sick word. That'll be a chapter name or something like that. That's how it works half the time. Anyway, so this is just a big dump of stuff. There's not a whole lot of notes here, and obviously this isn't every note. Like I said, some got taken directly from it, put in the book. Some of them were handwritten. I have a lot of handwritten notes for book 2, but this is just whatever's left over after book 2. So officially, from here on out, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't read Book 1 and Book 2, Vengeance, Children of Faust, or Vengeance, Cataclysm, then do not watch any further in this video. If you're on your way out, please leave a like on your way out. I would appreciate that. But if you're staying, cool, welcome. Now that we've weeded out all the losers who aren't caught up in the book series so far, let's jump into these notes. And these are in no particular order. Okay, so let's see. Where are we starting? Chrism stole Kim's dead body and placed it in a stasis so it would not decay further. This is revealed later when they have to transfer Alice to it and she sees Kim's corpse floating in dark liquid. The reason they have to do this is because Kim's body is acclimated to Alice's energy. It's a perfect fit and the best way to ensure Alice can return to this world of full power where they need her to be. But Kim can never return to her body because she does not have enough of her soul left to keep her flesh alive. So again, a lot of this stuff might just be straight up conceptual. This might be me. A lot of these are me telling myself where I want plot points to go and some pretty quick justifications and reasonings behind it and why it makes sense. So a lot of these aren't exactly like chunks of the book, but me just telling myself make sure to do this and this is where I'm going and this is the reason for it. When Alice fuses with her, okay, so this is when Alice is first given to Tansu. When Alice fuses with her, she passes out. Tansu has a dream where she's in a forest, a dead forest where she is chasing Kim around. When she finally catches up to her, she's standing in front of a dark lake and plunges herself into it. She gets swallowed instantly, but moments later, she's reaching up from the water, screaming and coughing as gray, dead arms are pulling her under. So, of course, this didn't happen. In Book 2 itself, we do see that when Tansu accepts Alice's energy, that she essentially, we don't see Tansu's perspective, we shift to a more of a detached narrative perspective, observing Alice and not sure of what state Tansu is in. So even though the book at that point is directly from her point of view, we kind of like detach from her a little bit so the reader can be in suspense of like, oh shit, what's her condition? We don't even know. Because I wanted to see, I wanted to do something like this and just have it be like, oh, I accepted Alice and then boom, I'm inside this dream or whatever, and we don't know what's going on in the real world. But it's like, yeah, I could do that. But then where do I rejoin us? Then it's just like filling in a bunch of stuff. Meanwhile, we don't know what's going on with Alice. Now I have to explain what's going on with Alice, but like, it's a whole lot. So instead, we just jump to Alice and have her fighting Magro because she's like in a rage. Okay, Chrism always uses everyone's full name. Oh yeah, so this is something I've always kind of had. Like Chrism always, because she speaks proper, she doesn't use she doesn't compound words, she doesn't whatever have you, or whatever you call it, I don't know, like she says it is, And a lot of that is explaining Adele to the Damned as just a facade. She just kind of does it. She did it as a facade to kind of make herself appear more robotic and more of a slave to Sin's desire and his will, but kind of adopted that as her own being when the deific energy and like when like the pure energy inside her, the divine energy kind of like acclimated to her, she kind of adopted that like pedantic mannerism of speaking. It kind of like overcame her, so she just kind of stuck with that. So that's how you know something is wrong about two, is when Chrism started speaking with apostrophes and whatnot, and like combining words or whatever. I can't think what that's called right now. I'm stupid. Anyways, Chrism, and I was trying to figure out a reason, an extra reason as to why. Ken asks why after she keeps calling him Kenneth. She says she hates being ignored because when she speaks, it's important. When using full names, people tend to listen better, but that's not entirely accurate. It's just like me trying to find smaller, easily explained reasons, but that's not it. Okay, where are we at? She wakes up. So I think this is from Tansu's perspective. She wakes up later in a strange. So this is completely unorganized, as you can tell. She wakes up later in a strange place full of overgrown trees and high-pitched buzzing that never stops. Kristen tells her that she moved them to this dimension. The only available pockets so she could find so close. When they're here, Macro says he's gonna scout. Okay, so this is before. Let's see. Okay, so this is when we're supposed to be like introduced to Minerva in this storyline. So this is like after Tansu is taken, after Tansu takes Alice's power and she like gets knocked out from that. They wake up later. There was supposed to be a lot more jumping around location to location. Like they were supposed to like use the rift and use Chrism's teleportation constantly throughout book two. It was essentially like, oh fuck, there's Juval, time to teleport and leave. Like she's chasing us, but she gets faster every time. So it was supposed to be like a chase the whole time, and they're always in different places. And the first place they went was to Jukai, the forest where Minerva is held. And this is kind of where we get a little bit of the background there, but this is not how it played out. So while they're here, Macro says he's going to scout, see if there are any changes in the air after Alice was released. Destro goes too. So this was also at a point in the story where Destro was alive. He actually, because we didn't 100% confirm whether or not Destro was dead. He got away, and then Lyomic said she killed Destro, but Lyomic is a trickster. She does like to play with the fear and like kind of like lure you in with these kinds of things and make herself appear stronger and justify her ascended form. So she's like, yeah, I totally killed Destro. In the lore, she did, but I was in the past thinking about, yeah, Destro is going to show up again, and he's going to essentially be an ally that would then betray them and lunge for power to join Javalt and whatever have you, not understanding just what she is, thinking that she's like an associate of Sins or whatever, like somebody related to him in a way that like, yeah, she's here to rule the planet too or whatever have you, just like Sin was. Like dad's dead, but here's mom. Like that's his kind of perspective. So he tries to join her side and she just like eviscerates him. So Destro's storyline ends there. But yeah, Destro was supposed to be with them and just kind of be like an antagonistic ally the whole time. Yeah, so Destro goes too, so he leaves, and it's just Tansu and Chrism because Alice is still sleeping from when she just got transferred over. Tansu asks her questions about her past and such to break the awkward silence, but most of her responses are just shut up, get some rest. But they hear a noise, and Chrism says not to be alarmed as Minerva approaches. Chrism is shocked by this and approaches the beast. But they hear a noise, and Chrism says not to be alarmed, but Chrism is also shocked, I guess. I don't know. And approaches the beast, seeing it has become more deformed than before. So apparently, in this point in my note taking, she hadn't seen Minerva in a much longer time span. She's now more of a quadrupedal bear-like creature. We learn about the Tuffle generations in a lot of the beginning, then she explains the situation now. She says that their next goal is to get Kim out of the ditch, as promised, because this is before where she wasn't withholding that information. She told her pretty upfront as a means to convince Tansu to go along with it instead of revealing to it much, much later. But in order to do that, they need to shave enough of Tansu's soul off by killing a human. By doing this, Alice will unlock the rest of her power, then they can move her into Kim's body and move Kim to Tansu's body. Okay, so this is continuing from that note. After Magro returns hours later from scouting, he says it's all clear and they return to Earth. Magro already explained to Destro, but before they leave, Chrism approaches Minerva and shares a look with the beast. She swiftly kills Minerva, and when questioned, she says that it was what Euclipse and Melody, the girl human, wanted. I guess maybe I forgot her name or something when I was doing this. I don't know. I really do not know how old these notes are. The original date of this must have been years and years ago. When they leave this place, the door is destroyed and that dimension no longer exists. So yeah, clearly, if you've read book 2, you know that she doesn't just dispose of Minerva like that. Sin's place is considered the tree. So Sin's personal chamber. His place is considered the tree. The other dimensions he interlaced are to be considered the roots. Me just trying to think of like how his little dimensional rooms and stuff all exist as one connected thing. Magcrow's Ascend ultimate attack is to pour his energy into the air, which burns the lungs and skin of everyone in it. He uses it and sees how it's harming one of the council members, because this is before I knew which council members were fighting. I think it was supposed to be like they kind of took turns going after them. So he pushes his limits and ends up harming them, but kills Ken in the process. Ken is begging him to stop, but Macro is determined and doesn't listen. So this was the first version of Ken dying. Ken was pretty much always supposed to die by Magro accidentally. So yeah, this kind of did work. This is kind of how it like turned out to be in a way. Like I had Javalt do like her Hakai attack, I think, where she like blasted him with like the sizzling, scarring burn air that really fucked him up, which caused him to ascend. Otherwise, it was gonna kill him. And then when he emitted all of his energy, I think he pretty much. It's been a while since I've actually read book 2, but I think he did pretty much the same thing to stall and allow them time enough to escape, and ended up killing Ken in the same way, except Ken wasn't begging him to stop. Ken was encouraging him to push and push and push. You may notice that up until this point, there was a line that was blurred on screen. That's because the original ending for book 2 had a time skip, and we got to see about a 4-year time skip of where the characters ended up. And that time skip was removed, and it was actually released in the original print, but I decided against it, and it's actually going to be the ending for the 3rd book, so ignore that. Don't worry about it. So one thing I had considered was making Ken really sick the whole time. He's pale, he's always coughing, and he's always like dizzy, tired, and uncomfortable because he is just a regular human who has been paired with Magcrow for so long. Because he's been with Magcrow for years at this point. I think probably 5 years or something like that. 5 or 6 years he's been with Magcrow, and the only thing that's really kept him being able to stay that long is the fact that they do not kill people or other Tuffle outside of the few instances where they had to, and the fact that Magcrow's essence, his anima, is so much more docile than the rest. They are able to manage and survive. I do wish I made them appear sick like that, because it would have narratively worked and kind of shown like how this is supposed to affect them. And in my head canon, which is technical canon, but if it's not on the pages, if it's not on the published pages, then it's not canon. In my head, he is always weak, he is always very tired, and he is kind of sick from being with Magcrow, but we just don't ever really see it. Alice stabs her nails into the ground. They come up around her as a protective dome. We do get to see this when Javalt is about to like eviscerate everybody on the street side, and Alice finally arrives to the fight after Sin's chamber got destroyed, and she puts her claws in the ground and creates a barrier with her energy and her claws. So that did get fulfilled. Alice gets electricity shooting out of her body when she absorbs Kristen's power from the sheer amount of power within her. They tangle her around her arms, and she uses a chunk of power to move at lightning speed. Essentially, yeah. After Alice kills Chrism and overpowers Javalt, the fight is stopped when the rest of the council step forward. Alice is cocky, pointing to each individually, saying, "I could kill you, I could kill you, you." So, yeah, it was supposed to be all of the council were to show up, but that as I went along, it's like, no, they have limiters. They can't all be there at the same time. It's already bad enough that Javalt is there at the same time the Chrism exists on the planet. So, like, I couldn't have every council member show up. Only Orin showed up. But yeah, Alice is supposed to be like, oh yeah, I see you over there. I can kill you, and you, and you. Just so fucking cocky. When getting beat by Javalt, Chrism warns not to push her too far. The last time she reached this point, 100 people died. She goes ballistic, fully animated, and body flowing like water. But, but Javalt still defeats her. Alice kills Chrism, and Javalt gets beat down, and the council show up right then? Question mark? Didn't know. Yeah, essentially, Chrism's just like, yeah, don't fucking push me, bitch. I will. Last time I got pushed this hard, I went fucking ballistic. And she's just threatening her, like dropping her like calm and cool facade, and like as the Mundi Commandante energy is taking over her, she just kind of changes personality. While Tansu is in the hospital, I always spell hospital OL. I really do. It's such a thing. I think this is I don't know, so while Tansu was in the hospital and recovering, Chrism allowed Ken and Magro into Sin's lair to read up on anything he never had got access to. This was told when Ken and Tansu are in the shelter. She asks how he could learn so much. He says Tuffle don't sleep often. So yeah, when Tansu was in the hospital in the beginning, just to try to like explain a little bit more of how Ken and Magro are so up to date on everything. Chrism's just like, yeah, have fun in Sin's chamber, just like get into all this shit, and he did. And then that's explained when they're in the chamber later on that Tuffle don't really sleep. So while Ken slept inside of him, Magro just stayed awake, like researching. Here's just a quote that I put down. Tansu saying, "The horror I felt when I returned, only to find that you were no longer breathing." Just I don't think that's the exact line I used, but I think this is said somewhere when she's at the graveyard, maybe, or when she first see. I don't remember. That did get used somewhere, or not that exact quote, but something like it. Magro knows how to make souls permanent. By experimenting with ones he collected, he was able to mend his own. Just explaining that, yeah, he could mend the anima. Magro creates balls of energy on each fingertip and presses them into his opponent. The energy penetrates his skin and bursts from the inside. He can also bring his tips together to forge a bigger ball of energy that can be thrown like a grenade, which explodes massively, which essentially, yeah, he did get that ability. Chrism gave Magro access to Sin's archive over the years in secret in exchange for his help in watching over Kim and assisting in hiding her energy when it was needed. Magro knows more about the ditch than Chrism and as much about the council. This, I don't think it might have been explained in book 2, but it was definitely shown and referenced in Devil to the Damned. Chrism manipulates the air around her body to move faster and hit harder. She can also direct fierce currents of air and as large as a wall or precise as a needlepoint. That was going to be my thing. It was like all the Tuffle have their own unique manner of fighting, unique way of managing energy and manipulating stuff around them. Most Tuffle have melee attacks, which is like their primary use, and then everything else is just kind of like I'm making do with what I got. But Magro was never given a melee physical ability, so he had to create his own with his knives, his daggers. And Chrism, she's not technically a Tuffle, but like she did still have that, and her whole thing was going to be like air manipulation. And I think we did get to see something like that, but I don't remember. Oh yeah, Tansu was supposed to lose a finger during the fight with Orin so this is when, I think this is before I knew if Orin was there or if Jabal was there or if they were taking turns, I don't remember. But when Tansu, as with Alice, is fighting Orin at the time, she loses a finger when he pins her hand to the wall by stabbing through her finger. So she was supposed to be like, going to attack, and he like used the sword, whatever weapon at the time, and like pins her hand to the wall, and then like as she looks and she like her like hand kind of like falls from like the dead weight of it, and her finger's off. I think it was like her middle finger, her pointer finger. Yeah, that was supposed to be a whole thing. I totally forgot I was gonna do that. I wanted in this story to leave Tansu like much more damaged, because we didn't see dismemberment a whole lot, because like I always want to up the violence, but I also don't want to hurt my characters. Like Kim got brutalized. That goes without saying. But there's like, loss of limb. So I did a lot of loss of limb stuff in Devil to the Damned. I wrote Devil to the Damned after book 2, of course. So I got to like fulfill that. But like, I was just too busy. Like I want to like remove pieces of these characters, but they have to like, I know they're gonna live after this, so like I can't do that to them because that's really complicated. So I just like got that dismemberment fascination in Devil to the Damned. A lot of the heads cut off, and we got heads cut off in this book too, but like heads cut off, arms cut off, and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of fun. Kristen wants to recover Alice because they need her strength when the council comes, but she wants to close the ditch so the council can never do anything with it, which is why they need to get Kim out as well, which is a very vague justification of the plot. Sin's power will transfer from vessel to vessel because it must exist in one. Whoever kills Chrism will absorb his power. Without Sin's power in the council, the world has been tipping to darkness. They need to reclaim the power and reset the balance. Kinda, yeah, that's basically what we're going for. So yeah, this is what I guess originally was supposed to be Orin as the main council antagonist. But you know what? It was supposed to be Orin, but then I decided no. We just had like an old man's Sin. I mean, Orin's not an old man. He's like appearing as like 40. All of them are appearing like 35, 40 years old. But we just dealt with Sin as an old man. We don't need another old, powerful dude antagonist. I'm going to make it a powerful, sick, awesome chick. And she's going to be badass. And she was. Love Javalt. Orvin uses a soul-rending blade, a blade which saps powerful energy from whoever it slays. Getting slashed with the sword does not take energy, but it is horribly damaging. He plans on killing Chrism with it and storing her power in the blade so he can return with it, but he will not use the blade on any human or Tuffle so as not to taint it. Chrism is badly injured by the blade and cannot recover, so Alice manages to send her blades into the ground and emerge beneath her head. Killing Chrism before Orin can make his final strike. Alice absorbs her power, which releases an incredible shockwave. She is then seen floating in the air with wings fully extended. The power accepts her because she has never taken an innocent life. Kel was a pedophile. Alex was a sinner. Lyomik was a tuffle. So, a lot to go over with that, but essentially that turned out the same. Javalt uses her Respada blade, which has the runes and the blessing of the council, which allows it to take and store energy. Sorry, just had to walk away for a minute. So, a lot of that stuff did get carried over and translated to Javalt. She does basically the same thing, just like in line that makes more sense. So, this is where Tansu was first speaking to the man who killed her dad. I'll admit right up front that plot line is the weakest. It's kind of like it's something like with Tansu killing the man that killed her dad. The guy who killed her dad is like just a very like background plot, and it is sad and it is emotional, and it doesn't need to be as deep and complicated as it could be. Like I thought about in the past of making like before I had any ideas, like Chrism, the one who killed Tansu's dad, just to like set her up for something, but like trying to find ways to interconnect it. But it's like no, pull back, be realistic with it. Not every backstory needs to have some connection, some complications, some crazy divine intervention thing. No, just it was an unfortunate situation where she lost her dad to just a bad situation. And Chrism's like, I can use this, and just goes and grabs the dude and brings him there because it's like, hey, this is the dude that killed your dad. You need to kill somebody. Have at it, champ. And then Tansu's like, I'm gonna rip this dude fucking apart. I'm gonna tear his teeth out and eat them, kind of thing. Like but so this was like originally what she says to him. So Tansu's speaking to the man who killed her dad after he asks who she is, and she says Nakito Hikono. 2 years ago, an innocent man named Nakito Hikono was shot and killed at a gas station holdup. The guy's confused and plays dumb, and she says he was my father, and I'm here for vengeance. Just doing a full circle thing with vengeance, and also giving like I've always also gone back of like, do I need to name it vengeance? But like, yeah, in the first book, it's vengeance for Kim getting vengeance on her dad, and then Kim getting vengeance for her dad and for herself, and Mundy, essentially, a Sin, getting vengeance against the council without really knowing it, and Chrism working towards vengeance towards Sin. And then you go into book 2, and it's Tansu getting vengeance for Kim, Alice getting vengeance for Kim, Tansu getting vengeance for her dad, Chrism getting vengeance for everyone that was lost along the way because of Sin's actions, and then Mundy manipulating everybody into thinking that the council are bad for vengeance against them. So it's like, yeah, everything is revenge, and everything is driven by that, but yeah, I don't know. So this must be really old because all these references are Orin and not Javalt. When they meet Orin and he reveals himself as a member of the council, they ask about his human appearance. He then shimmers and displays his true form, a whitish-blue solid mass of energy with a heavy mist pouring from his opaque skin and a massive light flickering particles floating around him, which we didn't really need to see that, but I think I did show this at some point, though, generally, where Javalt gets cut so deeply that it actually reveals her core divine energy within. So like I did show that, but this is just like he just blips and turns into that, and then blips back, just kind of silly. They were able to get him to explain some stuff about what sin really is, his name and actions, which caused all this to transpire. Which no, because the council doesn't know. That's kind of the whole point. After their battle, and they manage to put up enough of a fight for Orin to retreat, Tansu gets them to agree with having one person stay with her mom for safety. Chrism goes, which gives Tansu and Macro a chance to learn about each other. Macro explains how when he met Chrism, she was there to kill him as part of her cleaning, like cleaning up Tuffle and stuff, killing Tuffle secretly to lessen the chance of any growing too strong and fulfilling his needs. But Macro didn't see her as the boogeyman like everyone else. He offered her a conversation, which is when they became allies. That's not how it went down. We learned how it went down in Devil to the Dam, but this is still me trying to figure out how far back their connection goes in their companionship. Yeah, and then I was in the middle of like thinking, wait, somebody needs to go and like make sure Kari's not getting killed, but also like the council aren't evil, so they're not going and killing people. They don't know that, but also like, yeah, just like I increased the pace in which to make it so they needed to all be together and all running instead of defending. But whatever, it's just it didn't work out like that. It's just something I try. A quote: "Finding tomorrow won't be easy." Macro and Ken can willingly change form since they mended their animal and cannot absorb more energy. That means Ken doesn't lose his soul when they kill. Like he doesn't lose fragments of his soul. That would not be true, technically. I was trying to figure that out. That would not be true. If they kill people or Tuffle, his soul would still get shaved. Capitalize on misery. Just, again, random little quotes, things I wanted to make sure I said or think about saying, see if I could fit it somewhere. Just something cool sounding. The rift does not contain the proper frequency to resonate with intact human souls. The vibration is pushing you, trying to eject you, but the Tuffle energy tethers you, which this is basically true, maybe not to the word, but it's in concept it's true. That's why human souls are like put through such dissonance when they're in there. Alice by the end acts as an impartial party. Okay, so this is me trying to figure out what to do with Alice when she got the power, and I was like, yeah, she's going to go with the council, and then she's going to act as an impartial party whose purpose is to keep the balance in her own way. She agrees not to contest the council as long as they do not attempt to force her. So this is before I thought about her actually like being taken by the council. Like at that moment, what's going to happen after? I don't know. Maybe she'll be an impartial party. No idea what I was doing after the battle. Sin never intended for the Tuffle battle to go on so long. The goal was to get Tuffle and to grow and adapt in spirit and experience, allow them to kill humans, learn secrecy, and overcome their distance for power. I don't know what those that displayed the tenacity and vigor would grow all powerful. Every Tuffle possesses the ability to open a rift, but it is locked until they grow strong enough, until they have discarded their human and balanced themselves. This is explained when they find all the Tuffle gathered, and Tansu wonders how they all got here. A lot of this stuff is me writing down. Like things that they might talk about to give us more background context. So this wouldn't be explicitly explained as we go along, but like, oh, hey, how is this happening with this? And like, what did Sin do with this? And then like Macro explains this or whatever, like stuff like that. Sin had a protective spell around his own energy that only repelled Tuffle energy. His physical vessel would be beaten to all hell, but as long as his soul was intact, he could not die. But the spell which protects him does not apply to his own power in case he ever needed to undo it, meaning Chrism was able to break through that barrier and damage his soul. When she killed him and it joined the rest of his power in her, it began to writhe and scream because of all the innocent blood that stained her. So this is me trying to explain, after book 1, why Chrism was able to kill him and not Kim and Alice. And so I was trying to be like, yeah, it's only his power could kill his power, because then the power would take itself or whatever, and it was blocked from being damaged further by lesser abilities or whatever. Just me trying to figure it out. This is how I divided Sin's power. So, like, assigning numerical values to it. Sin has 1,000 power. He uses 1/3, 300 for the initial seal, which that's not. 300 is not a third of 1,000, is 333, but whatever. I was rounding. Which leaves him at 700, uses a quarter of that, 175 for Chrism, leaving him at 525 max. Chrism has 175 power from Sin, plus 203 anima of 378. Just me trying to figure out power scaling. The first contract formed by the council prohibited unauthorized pacification of human souls. Each of them accepted this seal at their core. If the seal is broken, it would lock the violator down, restricting most of their power, making their capture far easier. They would be recovered and punished, but Chrism did not bear the seal, so the rule did not apply to her. So this is why council members cannot kill. At the beginning, they all decided that like they needed to protect and ensure humanity's survival and balance, that unauthorized killing could have unintended consequences, so they needed to carefully consider every life that was taken. Therefore, they applied a contractual seal to their own divine energy, which made it so if they broke that rule, then that seal would break and it would lock their power down, because clearly then they either went rogue or something went wrong and they needed to be locked down and recovered so they could figure out what was going on and why this happened. It's the number one rule. It's like at their core, they do not kill unless they all agree, and the only time that they are allowed to kill is when they make a new contract, which temporarily blankets the previous contract to allow that specific killing. Yeah. And Kim Soul is a light blue marble in the ditch. That was the last note I have there. So I don't, this isn't all of my notes, like I said, but this is a whole lot of leftover notes. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.